Dear speakers and participants, greetings from the European Parliament and thank you London Story for convening this meeting today to honor India's Republic Day, which is officially celebrated tomorrow. It will mark the date on which the Constitution of India came into effect 73 years ago, establishing a ground for laws that guarantee fundamental rights and civil liberties to all its citizens. I am honored to have been invited to share these opening words with you through this message. In the European Parliament, I work as the Standing Rapporteur for India, and I just returned from my first journey to India, where I had the honor to meet human rights activists, officials, journalists and scholars to discuss the state of India, democracy and human rights today. While the Constitution marks an important moment in the history of India, the celebrations of this day are shadowed over by urgent human rights violations that I also witnessed when traveling in India. Both EU and India have to work on these issues in our areas and acknowledge them. In India, the imprisonment of activists, attacks against minorities and repression of media are loud indicators of erosion of human rights and freedoms. Police abuse and killings, not just extremely unfortunate instances, but are parts of actions to control the critical voices. To be a true democracy, India cannot fall into authoritarian rule. The people in India need protection of their constitutional rights from their government, justice system and the whole society. Defending human rights should be at the core of the EU-India partnership as well. When freedom of speech and democratic opposition are at risk within a country, the international partners of this country must cooperate and hold each other accountable as partners in democracy and human rights. I wish this also from India to the EU, as EU countries also have a lot of issues with human rights abuse, such as the rights of sexual minorities and problems in the rule of law in some countries. Because of this, I am convinced that it's important that EU and India have returned to the shared process of human rights dialogue after a long pause. We need to take this dialogue extremely seriously, as it is about human rights. The dialogue should be a vital process for cooperation to protect the human lives and the freedom of people, but that requires more concrete common goals and milestones. Both parties need to be clear what actions they are committed to in order to make progress. EU and India need to encourage and support each other in order to ensure that human rights are realized in practice. This is our duty towards our people, both in India and in Europe. When I met these human rights defenders in India, I was shocked how many of them work under very restricted circumstances in an unpredictable and risky environment. Their offices have been shut down, their funds frozen. I met respectable, hard-working NGOs that now have to work totally underground. Many international organizations have been forced to leave the country. Many activists have been detained without a due process, others silenced, and those who dare to speak out say the same thing. None of us would have been able to predict the India of today 10 years ago. The situation is deteriorating fast, yet hope remains. Activists keep fighting, organizations keep operating, and free media keeps reporting. All of this work for minorities, the poor, and those forgotten and discriminated against. The new year 2023 marks the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Similar developments shadow the celebration of human rights on a global scale, as they do in India on this Republic Day. This is why it is ever more important for the democracies of the world to work closely together. As the world's largest official democracy, India is at the heart of this cooperation. The democratic world needs India. We need to ensure that either EU or India pivot to the wrong side of history. My wish for this Republic Day is that India will live up to the vision on which it was built and strive to fully realize all the rights that are enshrined in its constitution. I wish you all an engaging, powerful and fruitful discussion today, and thank you for your important work.